Hi, my name is TJ. My dad died of overdose on January 1st, 2011, and my mom is a recovering addict. God helped my mom, and now together we are here to help you. Now let's talk recovery. Here's your host, my mom, Susan Sexton Wood.
Hi, I'm Debbie Lahman. I'm definitely not Susan Sexton Wood, so I'm not TJ's mom. But we do want to welcome you to Let's Talk Recovery. Susan is under the weather today, or she would be here. And I know she would appreciate your prayers as you continue to pray for her health and how she feels, as well as praying for Unchained Praises. So we want to thank you for that. Today we have a special guest that's coming from Rushville, and his name is Timothy Bunch. And this is my first time meeting Timothy, but he seems like an okay guy. I'm just telling you right now, first impressions here. So Timothy, I want to welcome you to Let's Talk Recovery.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. So who is Timothy Bunch?
I'm 35. Like I said, from Rushville, Indiana. I was born and raised there. Come from a kind of a lower class family. When we remember as a kid when we moved from the trailer park into a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house, I thought that was big time.
Sure.
I thought we hit it big. So, an only child. Well, I have a sister, but she moved out at a fairly young age. So for the most part, I was a only child growing up. My mother and my father they divorced around the age of 10, at which time I was given the difficult decision to who I wanted to stay with. So it's kind of a win-lose situation there. I didn't really, it was put in a tough spot. So
Sure.
I ended up choosing to live with my father at the time because my mom was with another guy and lived in Greensburg, so I didn't want to really switch schools. So I chose to stay with my father. I lived with him for the next 3-4 years, and Dad came down with cancer, and took him fairly quick. I remember he got diagnosed in like April, and it took him by August. So that was tough for me that day. That was my best friend. As a child in school and stuff, I was usually the smallest kid in the class, one that people like to pick on or bully around. So, I was my dad was my best friend, and I lost him that day, and it devastated me. Which time my mom and her husband, they found a house in Rush County, so I didn't have to switch schools because I had to go live with her at that time. So went and moved in with them, at which time I was introduced to marijuana for the first time. I was like 12 years old, 13. And, at the time, that's what made me happy. It took some of that pain away that I was experiencing. I didn't really grieve with my mom about it. I didn't really know how to come about, talk about my problems with anybody. So, the marijuana was kind of it was an escape for me from those feelings, and kind of made me numb to everything. That I don't know, the marijuana smoke, it went on for several years. I was always real active in sports. I played football, basketball. I even sang in choir, and by the time I got into high school, like, the smoking of marijuana became more important than the things that I loved all my life. I stopped playing sports.
Sure.
I stopped, I quit choir, and, I didn't want to stay after school for practice, and I was just worried about, after school going and get high. That's what I did, and up and through high school, I would go to parties and stuff with my friends, and they would be drinking, everybody there was drinking, so, I'd join in. And, alcohol really wasn't my favorite thing to do, but, it was just kind of a peer pressure type thing,
Sure.
just to fit in with the crowd, what they were doing. But I remember, I got through high school. Somehow I was able to still graduate high school. I don't know. Like, I never took a book home. I don't remember. Never really studied. I just, I don't know, the tests and stuff, just kind of came easy to me. And that was the one thing my mom told me she really wanted to see her son do, was graduate high school. So I was able to make that happen, make her proud. But I remember one time when I was a senior, I think you've had him on the show before, Justin Sullivan. Me and him was at a party, and these are just experiences of how God was working in my life at the time, and I didn't know it. So we were asked to take a gentleman's car and go to another town and get him cigarettes. So Justin was driving at the time. He asked me if I wanted to ride with him. Of course, I said yeah. And I remember we was going down this country road, and he was flying like 55, 60, and this road turned into gravel. We started fishtailing down this road, and next thing I see, we headed straight for a tree. And I wake up, and my head went through the windshield because I wasn't wearing my seatbelt, which I still got a scar right here between my eyes from it.
Oh,
and,
my.
Yeah, I'm just a bloody mess, and I wake him up. He's passed out on the steering wheel, and at the time I wasn't even like worried about my well-being. I'm worried about like getting in trouble. I was like, we got to start this car up, get back to this party, like we got to get out of here. Like I said, that was God working in me then. I could have been dead that night, but He had better things in store for me. But I was very grateful to be alive from that. I very easily could have been dead. It's kind of funny how the glass got right between my eyes. Didn't get in my eyes, but just right here in between. So at the time I thought it was a sign, but I didn't think anything of it. I kept doing what I was been doing all along, partying, smoking, drinking. After high school, when I graduated, I got a lot of inheritance money from my father dying. I mean, it was like $35,000. And other than paying like $15,000 on a car and buying a pool table, I think I partied the rest of that money away. And which time, I was experimenting with every type of drug you can imagine. Like, you name it, I probably did it. And it makes me feel terrible, and I did that to my dad's money, but I know he's proud of the man I am today, where I'm at today, so, it helps with that. I got caught with 2 OWIs back to back consecutively. And these aren't drinking while driving. These were being high while on marijuana and operating a vehicle, which I totally get. They had a probable cause for my warrant and urine, or for my blood and urine, and I failed the first one. And they took my license for 6 months, gave me a little bit of probation, which I'm a drug addict. I'm able to cheat the system, get by any way I can. So I get my license back, and it wasn't even like 2 months later, I got that second one. And they slapped me with a D felony on that one. And I ended up having to go to jail for like 90 days, got some more probation. And they sent me to substance abuse classes this time, which, I'm there just because I have to be, not because I want to be. I went to them because I had to. So I remember I'd go in these AA meetings, NA meetings, and just sleep, didn't even really take nothing in what they were saying. Just ready to get my time over and get back to doing what I know best,
Sure.
So I continued, somehow, I got through the probation stuff without, violating. I continued doing what I've been doing, since I was 13, 14 years old. And I ended up getting with my fiance over here. Well, now my fiance, at the time she wasn't, but we had our first kid together, and you would think, that would be a wake-up call, like, get your stuff together. You got a kid on the way. You got a girl here that really cares about you and loves you, but, I'm just, I tell people all the time, me as a drug addict, I was selfish. I was judgmental. I was, played the blame game a lot. It was everybody else's fault but my fault. I never took ownership of my own actions. And I like to justify everything I was doing. It was around, I remember, like, example of me justifying things is when I'll backtrack a little bit. When I was around 20, 21, my mom came to me, and, my dad's already been passed away for 8, 9 years at this time. And she informs me that he wasn't really my father, that he adopted me when I was born.
Oh,
and
my.
I knew nothing about this, So when she told me that, I just used that as, a way to, well, that happened to me, so why does it matter if I'm doing this, or why does it matter if I'm doing that? Like, woe is me. Nobody's got it as bad as I do. But, at the time, I really despised my mom for that.
Sure.
Uh, to this day, I don't really have a relationship with my biological father. I know who he is, but my dad that passed away, that's my dad. That's I still got his last name. It's the Bunch name. My kids carry on that name. I'm proud of that man. He raised me and took care of me the best he could. So I just really don't understand. I didn't understand at the time why my mom would even tell me that. And that just sent me further into my addictions. All it really did. I don't like dealing with my feelings. I don't like talking to counselors or people like that about, my life. So, like I said, the best thing I know how to do things is use.
Sure.
That's what I've always known how to do,
Sure.
And, at this time, I'd experimented with, crack, meth, heroin, pain pills, Xanax, like you name it, I've done it. And when I was with my fiance, we had the first kid, and then we had our son, a year or so after that. And still, I wasn't changing my ways. I was keeping things from her the whole time. She knew that, I smoked a little bit of weed and I drank occasionally, but it was around the time, I had some dental work done, and they, back then, they handed out prescriptions, pain pills, didn't even ask questions. And he asked me what I wanted. Well, the strongest thing you got, and they were giving me refills upon refills on these, so it's hard for someone not to get addicted to them when they're just being fed to you. So, at the time, I didn't really want to admit that I had a pain pill problem. I knew I did, and I tried to hide it from people as much as I could or be sneaky about it,
Did you think that did your fiance know?
At first, she knew that, I was getting them from my mouth and stuff, but I don't know if she knew the
the
severity
extent
of it, yeah,
Yeah.
how bad it had gotten. But, over time, of course she knew.
Sure. It was. Yeah.
So we had our third child, another girl, and by this time, I'm deep into the pain pills. Like I can't go a day without them, or else I'd be sick. I don't want to be sick. I don't want to withdraw from them. The withdrawal's terrible. So I was doing anything I had to do to get what I wanted. I was a selfish person, whether it be lie, steal, you name it. Like, I was supplying my habit however it took. And I remember one day, there's a pill called Opana. They're like Oxycontin and morphine mixed together. I remember I snorted 2 of those, like 40 milligrams, and then smart me took a handful of pain pills on top of them.
Oh my.
Yeah, so I remember I came home from work and I'm just out of it. They say I'm sitting on the couch and I'd stop breathing, and every so often, I'd wake up and take a big deep breath and back out again. I went and I was overdosing, and I didn't want to go to the hospital. They was begging me to go to the hospital, go to the ER, and I thought I was going to get in trouble. That's what I was more worried about. I wasn't worried about my life or what, if I was going to survive this. I was worried about if I was going to go to jail for this. But eventually, they did talk me into going. The first thing I remember when I got to that hospital is there was a lady outside with a wheelchair, and I don't know what happened, but like it threw me into shock, and I don't remember nothing after that. And I don't know if it was Narcan or what they used back then, because this, was, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Probably a little longer than that. But I don't remember anything in that hospital until I woke up, and I'm just embarrassed that I'm there. I'm embarrassed that I wasn't able to maintain that buzz. I'm not embarrassed that I did that in front of my children, in front of my fiance. Like, I wasn't embarrassed that, kids see me like that. I was just embarrassed that I was in the hospital for overdosing. But, that's another example of God working in my life, and, I could have been dead that day. But, like I said, he had better things in store for me. So, I get out of the hospital, and they, everybody's telling me, I have a problem. I didn't want to ever admit to it. I knew deep inside, I had a pretty big problem. I was an everyday user. And eventually, with, a few of them talked me into it, I checked myself into Harbor Lights rehab in Indianapolis, Detox Center. And, you know, I did that really just to hush them up, make them happy. You know, I didn't do that for me that time. But I went up there for like 3 days, you know, detox, started feeling a little better. You know, I got this under control. You know, I found I'm cured, you know, is what I thought. You know, there ain't no cure for addiction. But at the time, I thought I was cured. You know, I'm ready to go home. Let's do this. So go back home from the Harbor Light, and it wasn't even like a day or two later, you know, I'm right back to what I was doing. And
did that surprise you for yourself?
Not really, you know. While I was there, I already had reservations in my mind that I was going to start using again.
Yeah.
Like
you kind of set yourself up.
Yeah, I set myself up for failure.
Yeah.
Like I already had it in my mind, you know, like I'm just doing this, you know, to make them happy, you know, get them off my back. But when I get back, you know, I'm a sneaky old me is going to do what I have to do again.
Sure.
So, you know, I get back, I started using again. We had our fourth child, you know, four children later, I still haven't got it figured out. You know, I still don't see the wake-up call there. You know, I'm just further and further into my addiction. You know, the pain pills, you know, the opiates eventually got pretty expensive. At which time, you know, because the pain pills and the opiates, you know, they gave me kind of a speed buzz. They woke me up, you know, gave me energy. So, you know, I had a friend tell me, which I'd already tried meth when I was like 18, 19, but didn't really, you know, get into it back then. So he told me, like, you like to stay up off the pain pills, you know, here's some meth, you know, this stuff's way cheaper, and it'll keep you up, you know, days at a time. So I'm like, all right. You know, it started out, you know, I'd, you know, do it one day, you know, and stay up a few days and wouldn't touch it, you know, for a few days. But, you know, eventually over time, the meth use, you know, significantly got worse, like real quick. I had you know, I stopped smoking, I stopped doing the opiates. Like, meth was, you know, the only thing that I was really concerned about. And it destroyed my life pretty quick. You know, I was an everyday meth user for 2-3 years straight, and which time, you know, I think I'm hiding it from her. You know, I'm down to like 120 pounds, so people, you know, they knew I was on something. They knew I was looking pretty sick and rough, but.
So what was the turnaround for you?
I had gotten us kicked out of our apartment because somebody suspected the meth use, and they came in and ran a filter test of our furnace, and it came back positive for meth, and it got us evicted. You know, I cost my fiance and my kids the roof over their head over my addiction. They had nowhere to go, you know, just out of nowhere. And that's solely, you know, from my actions and my addiction. So, you know, thankfully, you know, her dad let them come stay with her, but, you know, everybody's pretty upset with me, you know, so I have nowhere to go. You know, I'm homeless for, you know, a month or two, and I'm bouncing around house to house, you know, wearing out my welcome at friends' house. You know, eventually they get tired of me and I have to go on. And I remember one night I had nowhere to go. It was September of last year, and I had nowhere to go, and it was raining and it was cold at night. So I went and slept underneath one of the bridges there in Rushville. I mean, had to take shelter from the rain, and it was a place to stay for the night, you know. But, you know, I'm sitting underneath that bridge that night, and, you know, people talk about having that spiritual awakening. That was my spiritual awakening that night. It was like God looked at me and said, you know, what are you doing, dummy? Get it together. This is it.
Had a relationship with the Lord prior to this?
You know, growing up as a kid, I remember like the bus picking me up on Sundays and taking me to church, and I remember going to like different vacation Bible schools and stuff, and it's just that, you know, once I got into the drug use, you know, pushed the Lord away. You know, turned my back on Him, you know, and He's been there all the time for me. So, but, you know, at night under that bridge, you know, I had nowhere to sleep, you know, nowhere to go that night. But I had meth in my pocket that night. You better believe that. It's insanity. really. And remember, I took it out of my pocket and I threw it in the river at night. And I pleaded to the Lord, please, take this from me. I'm done with this life. I don't want to be that person no more. I don't. I've tried doing this by myself, which I never got past more than a week sober. So, I'm tired of doing Tim's way. Let's do God's will this time. Let's try your way.
That was a big thing for you to throw that in the
Yes, it was.
river
I
or
knew I had to
wherever
do
it
it though,
was.
because if I didn't, I would have. I was telling her on the way up here. One of two things would have wound up. I would have been in prison, or I would have been dead.
Yep.
One of those were inevitable. It was coming.
Yep. Yeah.
So, there's the Brianna Soap there in Rushville. I remember I stumbled into one of their meetings one time, and I was still in use, and they were telling me like, we can get you help. We can send you, and fund you.
Yeah. Right.
So, after that night in that bridge, I'm crying all night long, talking to God, and I remember I woke up and made that call to them. There's wonderful people in Brianna Soap. I love them people. They gave me the outlet to go save my life. And they called up a Harbor Light again. Because there's a reason why they send people there. It's a faith-based treatment center.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember I called them. They said they couldn't get me in for a week. So I'm like, I ain't got a week, because they couldn't give me a bed for a week. It's like, I ain't got a week, lady. So I ended up going to a detox place in Connersville, to wait that week out before I could go up there. And got out. That whole detox in Connersville, I just slept the entire time,
Sure.
I felt
Sure.
bad. It was coming down off everything. And got out of there, went to Harbor Light, and I'm grateful for that place. There's a lot of people say that, it's tough, it's hard, it's supposed to be, It's not supposed to be a cakewalk, but the way I looked at it, I'm saving my life.
Yeah.
I'm here to save my life. I don't care what it takes. I'm not court ordered to do this. Nobody told me to do this. I did this for me. Because if I didn't do this for me, I wasn't going to have a relationship, with my kids, or they might even have a father growing up, So I had to go fix myself. And it was tough, I had to stay away from them for a while. I was up there for 3 months. I went through the detox up there too. I went through their RT treatment, and then even into their transitional housing. Because,
Good.
I was still homeless at the time. I didn't have anywhere to come back to. The whole time up there, I'm going to Bible studies. I'm going, anything to do with God, I'm there. And, I'm reading my Bible at night. I'm praying. I'm meditating. And at the time, she had left me, when I got us evicted out of the apartment. But, we, reconciled our differences and, figured we'd give it another shot, with sober me, because she ain't ever had sober me, in the entire 11 years we've been together. This is the first time, she's had a sober partner and sober father of her kids, so, my kids. So, after the 3 months up there, I decided, I would come back because she found us a house to move back into. And, this time coming home from Harbor Light, I'm not under the mindset that, I'm cured from this. I heard you talking to her earlier. There's not no cure for this. This is a lifetime process, of recovery. This ain't just some event, where, like you said, there's a finish line. No,
Right.
this is something I started, and this is something I have to continue doing the rest of my life. So, I work out my recovery every single day.
And and I'm glad you acknowledged, I didn't acknowledge that Steph was still sitting here with us, and Steph was on the previous program, and you were privileged to hear most of her testimony. And I think that when you have that realization that recovery isn't, from point A to point B,
Right.
it is the rest of your life.
right.
And that makes the difference. Steph, was there anything that you wanted to ask him or comment on at all?
Are there do you do anything else besides meetings, or are you interested in doing anything else besides do you feel like you want to help more?
Absolutely. It's in the blue books, my primary purpose is to stay clean and to help other addicts achieve sobriety. Every time I see a newcomer, you know, coming to meeting, you know, whether I know that person or not, you know, I was once that person. So I feel it's my responsibility to, you know, love on that person, let them know there is hope, you know, there is a light at the end of that tunnel. You can do it, you know, have faith. And
you know, there's the other thing too, because Steph, again, I'm bringing you in on this a little bit, of the things that I have seen with her, in particular, I would say the last year, sometimes there's other people that think, you know, that whether it's family or whether it's close friends, and they think that, okay, you're here and now you're going to end by this time, and they don't understand the importance. You've mentioned Brianna's Hope, how important that is, and I'm noticing you have I Love CR.
That's right.
So I'm assuming you go to CR meetings
Absolutely.
as well.
Every Sunday.
And that's one of the things that Steph has said so many times, is that those meetings, and I think that's what she was alluding to a little bit in her question, is it is so important to go to those meetings, because like you said, you have been on that other side, and you know what that's like. And yet, while you're there, even for those other people to encourage and to be a blessing to, really, it's for you as well.
Yeah, I told people, you know, like coming up here and doing this, like, yeah, it's good for me and my recovery, but really, you know, I'm hoping that, you know, my story can relate to someone and give them hope to want to better themselves, because it is possible. You know, if God can forgive a sinner like me, he can forgive anyone.
Absolutely. So I'm going to give you an opportunity right now to look in that camera right there. And I want you to talk to another Tim Bunch that's sitting out there. He could be high on something. He could be right in the midst of curling up in the ball. You know what I'm talking about? What can you say to that other dude out there?
If you're out there and you are still struggling with addiction,
They switch cameras.
just know you're not alone in this. There are people that do care about you and do love you, and there is a way, you know, through God and through having like-minded people like yourself in recovery. You know, you can have a better life. You can fix yourself, and you can turn this all around, and there is hope.
Because the hope's sitting right here, and
right.
the hope's sitting right over there too.
Amen.
I have two people right here tonight. We have Tim. Is it Tim or Timothy?
Either one.
Okay, there we go.
Never Timmy, though.
Never Timmy. Okay, we won't go there. Or Steph. Steph's the same way. If I call her Stephanie, she doesn't like that. But what we have here are two lives that have been changed, and they have been changed because of the fact that they've had Christ in their life.
Amen.
If they didn't have Christ in their life, they couldn't do it. And Unchained Praises is a faith-based organization. So when you come to Unchained Praises and Susan does the one-on-one coaching with you, she's going to be able at some point to offer you hope through action plans that you'll do on yourself. I want to thank Tim for being here. I want to praise him for his recovery. He just told me that this has been 1 year ago this September. And so, Tim, we're very happy and proud of you. And we want to thank you all for tuning in one more time. And please remember, we are the voice of hope, and we are there for you. And we want you to have a very blessed night. Thank you for tuning in.